Oh, got a lot to get done. How's it going, everybody? I am in the midst of getting everything ready for our big 4th of July trip to Natchez. If anybody's not familiar with Natchez, you can go back and watch one of the video from last year. So far every year we've been going on a week-long trip to Natchez, which is in central Washington. But right now, I got a whole list of everything that I need to get done for each thing. The Dakota, the Ram, and the camper. So I'm gonna kind of go through and show you guys everything that I have going on, what I've already gotten done, because here next week, I'm gonna be gone for a week, going out of town, and Natchez, we're going for the whole week before 4th of July. So that's coming up pretty quick, and we're running out of time. And I know a bunch of my friends, especially Jake, which you guys have seen in some of the videos. Woo! He's doing a 4-speed swap with a 205 and a doubler. I'm gonna put a link down below as well, or up on the screen, of his channel, because he's just getting started. But if you guys want to go see more of his stuff and more of the stuff that he's building, because he's got some cool stuff coming up pretty soon. Back to the list. So as of right now, I have one of the half doors out of the 2 finished. It's all welded together. Dakota's wanting to join. And I still have the other one to do, but these are definitely gonna be a must need for Natchez this year, because my truck doesn't have AC. And last year it was scorching hot. Even though I only brought the quad, it was pretty hot. I mean, it was 90 to 100 degrees the entire time we were there. So I'm gonna get these half doors finished up so I can have those. It is definitely gonna be dusty. One thing that I've already fixed is the front drive line. It was having some squealing going on. So I ended up replacing both U-joints. I wanted both solid joints, but they had the greasable U-joint, so I ended up putting that in there. And I've never rebuilt a double cardan before, but basically the uniball that was in the middle of the double cardan had some grease, but you can definitely tell that it was pretty worn. Everything was still nice and tight. It was just the grease. There just was not enough grease. So the bearings and everything in there are just running dry. So basically repacked all that, made sure that was all good. Coming up to the engine bay, you can see there is nothing to cool the radiator in there right now. And that's because the last snow run that we just went on, the fan actually started overheating and smoking. So I was running a cheaper, I think it was a 14-inch fan, just a standard electric fan, and it worked for a very long time. Actually got it pre-used from our other buddy, Ryan. Ah! Did it break? No, you're good. Woo! And it, like I said, it worked for a real long time. I had it on my truck for probably about 3 years, and it just decided to give up. So the electric fan, I just had the cheap mounts that went through the radiator. Not my favorite thing that I've ever done. But I've actually ordered up a shroud off of eBay. It's not the exact fitment or the exact one for the Dakota radiator, but the measurements are so close that I should be able to make it work. So I ended up getting a shroud that accepts 2 12-inch fans. So basically it'll bolt onto each outer side, and I'll be able to mount both fans on the inside of it, so there's an actual shroud. So it should be able to cool quite a bit better than what it did before. I'm just going to tie it into the existing wiring that I have here. I'll just do a basically a Y pigtail. Once the cooling's good, the only other thing I really have to do on the truck is the transmission pan, and I'll show you that in a minute. But first, I kind of want to show the fans that I ended up getting. So I got 2 of them. So these are kind of cheapo, off-brand, kind of just, I don't want to see cheap off-brand, but just generic fans. I know absolutely nothing about them other than they're gonna push some air through the radiator. My last cheaper fan worked phenomenal for a long time, and it had damage previously, and it still worked for 3 years. So these are low profile 12-inch as well. My last fan was probably pretty close to twice the thickness of this, but I'm gonna end up running both of these in the fan shroud. The shroud does have to be drilled for the fans that you use, because obviously you could use any fan you would like to use. So I'm not saying that these are a good fan, because I have no idea. It was just a fairly inexpensive option to see if everything would work, and later on I could upgrade to better fans. I just want to get everything in there, mounted, and ready to go. These fans do come with full-on temp sensors and everything as well to kick them on and off. I don't think I'm going to use that. I haven't decided yet, because right now I have my fans wired up to just a toggle switch to kick them on. We'll figure that out. I'll go more in depth in all this when I actually go to install it. Back to the transmission pan. Yeah, it's still leaking. I put some of that sealant up on the dipstick, wherever it's at, and it did not stop it. I've cleaned the dipstick off, everything like that. I cleaned it off fairly good, and the sealant, maybe I just didn't get it on there good enough, but it definitely didn't stop it from leaking. I do think it's leaking from the pan a little bit as well. You have to clean that as well. So I have to pull the exhaust down and drop the pan. I'm gonna change the fluid, the filter, like normal maintenance, and I'm gonna go ahead and reseal everything. I'm gonna pull the dipstick tube out and reseal that and try to get this thing to stop leaking, because when this thing sits even for a week, I'm putting probably half a quart to almost a quart in it after it starts leaking out on the trailer as it's just sitting here. So one other thing that is going to go up in the engine area, or I should say hood, is I am going to be putting hood vents on this. So if you guys have ever seen the generic hood vents that you can get for like a TJ, a Jeep TJ, they're basically just one big, almost rectangular panel. And Jake has one on his Jeep, so I ended up measuring it, and it will fit almost perfect on this hood. I shouldn't have to trim or cut the plate at all. And all I'll have to do is knock out some of these holes. I'll have to see how far it comes, but I'm basically gonna knock out this big hole and probably half of each of these, just the way the actual piece lays on there. And then I might get 2 of the side vents for the sides right here, because that's where a lot of the heat's coming from, obviously, is the headers. So that's pretty much it on the Dakota. I still have the Ram and camper to go over, but a few other little things. I got to get a spare tire, which I do not have at the moment. And that's pretty much it. I mean, get some spare shafts, because like I said, it is a full week-long trip, and we are going to be doing the Natchez Trail, Natchez Ridge, Moon Rock, Funny Rock, as always, Carburetor Hill, Aardvark Hill. We're gonna try to hit every single trail we possibly can out there. I think a lot of people are gonna be showing up later in the week, but me, Jake, and his dad, and our buddy Ryan, we're gonna be trying to hit as many trails as we possibly can when we first get there. I'm not sure exactly who's gonna be there right away, but this is gonna be crunch time to prep for Natchez. Going on to the Ram, the tow rig, really don't have much to do. I had to put a new transmission in it recently because the torque converter failed. And yeah, I know Dodges don't have the best trannies, all that good GoFundMe stuff. But from what I understand, the torque converter ended up spitting its guts out into the transmission, and so on and so forth. I didn't want to do it myself, so I ended up having a shop do it, but it's a Jasper transmission. It's running through a few kinks right now, but we're gonna, hopefully it ends up working itself out. If not, it will be going back to the shop and getting fixed. But I'm gonna be putting a cooler fan for the transmission cooler itself, because the next thing I gotta finish is the truck bed camper. And if any of you guys have seen that, there's a lot going on with that, and I'm gonna get in that right now. So the camper is still in here, and we can kind of go over all the things that I need to get done. First and foremost is going to be kind of sanding this thing down, and what I mean by that is I need to come in, because not all of my edges are completely perfect. I need to come in and sand all these edges so they're a perfect square edge. Some of these, there's a little protrudes a little bit, so I'm going to come in and sand these round. So I do have to completely sand all the edges on this before I bring the camper out and start sealing it. I've gotten some of the insulation put up in here. Some of the panels are up. This is basically one sheet of insulation, and that's basically as far as it got me. So I still have a lot of insulating to do, and this will also help with sound dampening. There's going to be some paneling that I'm not going to do, which is probably going to be the stuff down here, because this is going to kind of sit in the bed space. But I got to get the rest of the insulation, and we figured out what we're going to use to sheet the whole thing as well. Home Depot and Lowe's both have, it's like a thin plastic material. I believe it's meant for bathrooms. It's like 1/8 sheet plastic that's paintable. It's all white, and I think it will be perfect. It's lightweight, and it'll be able to just perfectly sheet the whole inside. And being that it's white will actually help, because we're only gonna have the one center light as of now, at least. So that will help brighten the entire camper up. I have to finish the bed space. I'm basically gonna be using a bunch of the scrap pieces that I have, kind of like the pieces you see here. This I've just laid up here. None of this is screwed down, but it's gonna be kind of like a puzzle piece, just to use all the excess pieces that I've had. And then I have to make a slot-in bed piece that will kind of come out to about where that seating spot is right there, because this bed space right here is only 5 feet and I'm 6'1", so we'll make a little slot-in bed piece. So basically when you walk in, we'll be able to slide that, drop that down, and come up into bed. The dog will sleep down under in here somewhere, most likely. Let's see. Speaking of her, I still do have to make a door. I keep forgetting that I have to make a door. So I gotta frame this in and grab some tongue and groove from Dan and get the door made and get that sealed. But so insulation, gotta get the bed done. Once I seal the camper on the outside, I'm gonna come through and do all of the windows. So I'm gonna end up caulking for all the windows, mount those in place, and I got to cut this out still for the vent. And I do have to come through, I do have to put jacks on this as well. So I think what I'm gonna do is get a piece of steel angle iron, and I'm gonna cap these corners right here, and then basically have these swivel weld on jacks, so I can swivel them up, collapse them, and have them kind of be out of the way. So, and I'm gonna put those on all 4 corners. I am gonna have some kind of tie downs to go in for the bed space. So I have to figure out where I'm gonna put them. They're probably gonna go somewhere up in here. It'll be the same concept, a shorter piece of angle iron that goes over, bolts in place, and I'll have something some kind of hook or something welded so I can run a strap down to the hooks in the bed. Also have to figure out the power situation. So as of right now, I have no batteries, nothing in here. I do have my generator, and I could run a plug on the outside so I can hook everything up, but I think I'm gonna try to get some batteries. The only power we're really gonna have in here is the vent and fan and light that goes into that pocket. So it's not gonna be a huge deal. And then for heat, not that we're gonna need it on this trip, but we're gonna use probably the buddy heater for now. I'm gonna make some kind of platform in this corner because this is where our permanent heater will go once we get to that point. So I'm gonna make some kind of platform there, and we'll probably put some of the carbon dioxide sensors. We'll put one up on the ceiling, but we'll crack the vent, leave the windows open a little bit at night, you know, just in case. I don't know if I'm bringing a quad this year or not, because last year all I did was ride the quad because I didn't have the truck finished for last year. I was going through and doing the 9-inch and all the suspension and everything like that. The year prior, I had the truck, but the second day in, we were only there for 4 days that year, I blew the radiator. So that year I rode the quad about half the time. So fingers crossed that I'm able to actually use the truck all year this year. I might have my buddy Michael haul the bike over for me when he comes in later that week. But the plan is not to take the quads and ride them, because the 400 needs a clutch cable, the 250 needs a clutch cable, and then the 450 needs a carrier, or at least the carrier bearings, and some wheels. So clutch cables are very inexpensive, like 15 bucks. But I want to get the Dakota and the camper 100% ready to rock and roll. So yeah, time is running out. We have this big trip coming up real fast, and there's a lot to do. And that's just the stuff that I have to do, not including all the stuff that everybody else has to do to get ready. Everybody has their own things going on right now. But like I said, I'm gonna be gone for a week, but get the half doors done and get the fan on. The shroud should be here right before we leave. So when we get back, I'm gonna focus on all the fan stuff. So this will be most likely the next video that comes out is the fan or finishing the half doors, one of the two. But I need to start crossing a lot of this stuff off. So this is just everything slapped on here, and there's probably more than this, sadly. But this is like the main big things that I have to get done before we go. I'm gonna link last year's Natchez video if you guys haven't seen it, or you guys have no idea what Natchez is. This place is just amazing. If you've ever heard of Moab, or like, I don't want to say Sand Hollow because Sand Hollow is kind of a whole different animal, but if you've ever heard of Moab, it's kind of like a miniature Moab in the forest. It's the closest thing that we have in Washington without having to drive all the way down to Utah or going down to California to go to Johnson Valley. It's really the closest thing we have to like real rock crawling, other than Reeder or going down to Brown's Camp. Because here in Washington, we really don't have that much rock crawling in particular. It's more mud, a lot of mud hills, muddy rock hills, but not rock crawling like Natchez. Natchez is a whole different animal. It's not that it's super hard. There's some technical trails, but it's just a good time. I mean, you could be gone on the trails for 12 hours at a time away from camp and just be gone all day and all night. So, like I said, I'm gonna throw everything from all the Natchez trips down below, because the videos from kind of this point forward are mostly gonna be focused on getting ready for Natchez. We will probably have 1 or 2 wheeling trips before then. We might be going down to Brown's Camp for Memorial Day, so look out for that as well. But we're not 100% there yet. Everybody's got a lot to get ready. But this is kind of just going over everything that I have to get done. So look forward to all these kinds of videos. Getting the hood vent, gonna do the fan setup, finishing the half doors. Those are gonna be sick once they're done. I'm real excited for the half doors. Anybody out here to watch the videos on the camper? There's still a lot to do on that. The camper is not gonna be, and I can't stress this enough, it is not going to be 100% finished when we go to take it camping the first time. It is just gonna be done enough to be able to basically sleep in. So when I say it's finished, it's good enough to go camping in. There is going to be a lot more videos on the camper even after Naches, because we're gonna be constantly adding and changing and doing different things with it. But I'm just trying to get it to the point of being able to use it. But yeah, I mean, this is gonna be a lot of footage and a lot of work. So we have 9 or 10 weeks. Seems like a long time, but we've had this trip planned since last year and it's already here again. So as always, hopefully you guys kind of enjoyed me rambling about everything that I have to do. And as always, stay off-road.